Look into my eyes, tell me what you see. You don't see a damn thing, cause you can't relate to me. You're blinded by our differences, my life makes no sense to you. I'm the persecuted one, you the red, white, and blue.
Welcome back to the Muslim Street. That is Outlandish that you're listening to. Outlandish is a hip-hop, R&B, and soul group that emerged from Denmark. A really cool group of guys, very dynamic, representing Moroccan backgrounds, Cuban, Honduran descent backgrounds, Pakistani backgrounds. So it's a really cool group. Again, that group was Outlandish. Today, right now you're listening to the Muslim Street, and we have with us a really cool guest. His name is Hassan Shibly. Hassan is now Executive Director of CARE Tampa. He is the son of Syrian immigrants, graduated magna cum laude, mashallah, from State University of New York at Buffalo, and and he also graduated law school from University at Buffalo. Hassan has worked in various legal organizations. He lectures very frequently on issues relating to Islam, American Muslims, and civil rights. And again, Hassan is new to our area from Buffalo, New York. He is now the Executive Director of CARE Tampa. Thank you for joining us, Hassan.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think requires a lot more media attention than what it's been getting recently in the past month, in the past few months, as this has been in our legislative system for a while. We're going to be talking about the National Defense Authorization Act. Malik, if you want to give us an update of what that is exactly, what's going on there.
Yeah, National Defense Authorization Act is a bill that was passed through Congress earlier in the year. The Senate passed it overwhelmingly, and I think it was like 93 to 7 or something like that. So that means the Democrats were aboard with this. It sits on the president's desk. The next thing is that he said he will sign it. Now, I have to ask you, Hassan, and I also want to congratulate you on being accepted into the Florida Bar.
Thank you.
Congratulations there. So one thing we want to talk about from a very high level, this continued assault on the civil liberties of general Americans now, and this is a clear focus on Muslims. And so we want to kind of talk about that.
I mean, as an American, as a Muslim, and as an attorney, these things are scaring me. As an American, as a Muslim, and an attorney. As an American, I'm scared because America, has one of the greatest democratic systems in the world. Because we have things like the Bill of Rights, due process, protection from government abuse of power. And unfortunately, it seems like we're heading in the direction where we're giving up these freedoms and these protections that make our country so great. As a Muslim, I'm scared because Islam is a religion that teaches me freedom of religion, freedom of diversity, and I believe these are also the American principles that make this country so great. And again, it looks like we're heading the road where we're giving up these freedoms and liberties in the name of security. But as our great founding fathers have said, those who give up some liberty for some security obtain neither.
Unfortunately, we have a very unfortunate video clip to air right now. I guess it'll kind of propel our conversation about the National Defense Authorization Act. What you'll be listening to is Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham is one of South Carolina's senators speaking on the National Defense Authorization Act. And within the National Defense Authorization Act is something that is being termed the Indefinite Detention Bill. And it was kind of subliminally put into the act, but it's very detrimental to civil rights, as Hassan will talk to us about. But definitely, I'm going to play this clip for you. Listen in.
And to those American citizens thinking about helping Al-Qaeda, please know what will come your way: death, detention, prosecution. And when they say, "I want my lawyer," you tell them, "Shut up.
Your time is
Don't get a
expired.
lawyer. You're an enemy combatant, and we're going to talk to you about why you joined Al-Qaeda."
That, again, was Senator Lindsey Graham, and he was addressing the indefinite detention bill that is in the National Defense Authorization Act. I think it's very scary how the senator himself, that was on C-SPAN, that was while Senate was in session, says that to these people that this bill would be, I guess, relating to, he says death first. Death, detention, prosecution. As far as I know from our Constitution, like we've been blessed in a country to have such a wonderful justice system, such a wonderful legal foundation to our country, where prosecution goes first, as far as I was aware. And Hassan is a lawyer, so he can definitely indulge us in what's going on here. But again, that was Senator Lindsey Graham saying death, detention, prosecution. Hassan, how do you feel about how do you react to that?
Well, let's start where the senator and I agree. And we agree that, as I think any person of conscience would, that there is no room for engaging in acts of terrorism or supporting organizations that engage in active terrorism. I mean, that goes without saying. And anybody that does so needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And that's, I think, where we disagree, is as a lawyer, as a patriotic American, I believe in something called due process. I believe in something called you are innocent until you are proven guilty, because it's very easy to accuse somebody. Accusing somebody of committing a crime and actually finding that someone did commit a crime are two very different things. We know many, many innocent people have been accused of false crimes in the past. And what this senator is unfortunately arguing is saying, hey, if we think you are thinking about committing a crime, if we think you are thinking about committing a crime, then we will kill you, we'll hunt you down, we'll throw you in jail, and don't even talk to me about having a lawyer. Don't even talk to me about the Bill of Rights. Don't talk to me about these American principles that make our country so great, because guess what? We're going to deprive that of. We're not going to offer you those protections. And that's very scary, because it's changing our principle, our legal system, from one that goes on innocent until proven guilty, which again separates us from Egypt, separates us from Syria, separates us from the dictatorships that we so proudly condemn, into a nation that stands for guilty until proven innocent. And that's very scary.
Yeah, Hassan, back in the 1940s during World War II, Japanese internments all over the west coast of this country. In the 1960s and the 1970s, the FBI, a government agency, launched overt programs. The COINTEL program, which we're familiar with, clandestine operations all over the place. These things they kept underneath the rug. Now, this is coming to the forefront. We are revisiting what the Japanese went through, on steroids, if you would, during World War II. I see that this has all types of tentacles to it.
It reminds me of I think, scenes from a film like Gladiator, or others showing the Roman Empire and the Greeks and the European democracies, right, as their empires faced threats, and the people proudly cheered as their rulers took more power, saying, I'm going to defend you with this more power. And of course, we saw what happened to those democracies in the end. We have to remember that government, I mean, there's sort of a cycle of government power, right? That governments start up as, people want to break away from tyranny. As our government started, we wanted to break away from the tyranny in Europe. We wanted to establish democracy. We wanted to establish due process, freedom of religion. But then over time, those in power try to take more and more power, slowly by slowly, until eventually we may, if we keep going down this road, end up like the tyrannies we wanted to free ourselves from. And then there will be another revolution, and the process will start over itself. So those who care about democracy must ensure we protect the freedoms that make our country so great. And Malik, it's very similar, I think, to the internment camps you mentioned that happened to the Japanese, where now we look back in history and say, how could we have been so uncivilized? How could we have thrown out the rule of law like that? How could we have engaged in such dirty actions within the realm of the law, in the name of the law? And we see that those were unacceptable now. And I think similarly, if this law gets signed in and start being implemented, I think 10, 20, 30 years from now, we'll be looking back at this with regret, great regret.
If you would like to read into the National Defense Authorization Act, there's a great resource that I always use, even when I worked at Senator Bill Nelson's office. I know that we would use this up there. It's called opencongress.com. There you can access the full text of the National Defense Authorization Act, including the bills within the text. You can go to ACLU.org and you can sign a petition on there. It's on their homepage, calling for the president not to sign this into law. Basically, what's happened is earlier, a couple months ago, it passed through the House. And at the end of November 30th or December 1st, what happened was it went through the Senate, and the Senate passed it. And of course, there was two different versions, the one that passed through the House and the one that passed through the Senate. And the one that passed through the Senate, as Malik pointed out earlier, it's very alarming, 93-7 passing rate. 93 senators voted for this, for the National Defense Authorization Act. What later happened was it was put into a committee so that the version that was in the House and the version that was in the Senate would come together and mold, I guess, as one act, as one passage, and they would go to the president's desk. Right now, the National Defense Authorization Act lies on the president's desk. We have confirmation from senators, from representatives that know that it's not yet signed. And I think that a lot of people are really disappointed in the Obama administration for this. The Obama administration for the past 2 months had said that when this makes it to my desk, I will not sign it. The president said he will not sign it and he will not allow for the indefinite detention of American citizens. And then I want to say Thursday night, the White House press secretary, Jay Carney, released a statement saying that after the bill had went into committee, that what came out does not challenge the president's ability to collect intelligence, incapacitate dangerous terrorists, and protect the American people. So according to the president's senior advisors, there's no more indefinite detention in the National Defense Authorization Act. That is what we're hearing in the media. Although there is not much media attention being brought to this, we are hearing that there's no more indefinite detention. Hassan, can you please comment on this?
Unfortunately, that's completely incorrect. There's two key provisions in there that are very troubling, and those that are promoting these provisions really play dirty politics to get their way. Unfortunately, in fact, or maybe fortunately, for better or worse, many of those senators that voted in favor of the act were actually against the provision in there that allows the indefinite detention of American citizens. They're actually against it, but they said, you know what, we don't have any choice but to pass it. Why? Because it also contains the authorization for the military spending, and we have to spend to defend our nation, so I can't vote down this budget. So they did a very sneaky trick. Unfortunately, there's two troubling provisions in there, one of which really allows the president, all right, in fact, it requires the military to apprehend anybody who is accused of supporting a terrorist network or associates of terrorist groups.
So all these people that we've seen in the past 10 years since 9/11 that have went through the court system, that have gotten trials for allegedly helping terrorist organizations, they no longer would be getting a trial.
Right. Now, for the American citizens involved, there was some changes, and the changes basically are twofold. One is that they allow the military to go after citizens accused of engaging in acts of terrorism or supporting groups that are going acts of terrorism. So that's very troubling. It doesn't require, but it allows. Secondly, the language as it is still allows for any American citizen, even on U.S. soil, accused of supporting terrorism to be locked up indefinitely. And that's scary because, again, it's not about somebody convicted. If it said anybody that's convicted is to be thrown in jail for the rest of his life, well, fine. If you're engaging in acts of terrorism, maybe you should be thrown in jail for the rest of your life. But the idea is accused, and we're throwing out due process. We're throwing out the court system. That's very, very scary. I think should be scary for anybody that cares about due process of the law.
Definitely. You're listening to The Muslim Street. We have with us today Hassan Shibly, who is Executive Director of CARE Tampa. Please join us after the commercials as we continue to talk about the National Defense Authorization Act.